Newsfirst, Newsline with Faraz Shaukat Ali.
And a very good evening to you and a warm welcome to Newsline Live. On the day that the so-called budget, the appropriation bill, was presented and read out by the finance minister, who also happens to be the president of the country, Mr. Ranil Wickremesinghe. I've got here with me a one-time banker, senior at that, and who for some reason or other decided to leave that all alone and enter politics. He's right here with me from the SJB, Mr. Iran Wickremesinghe. Very good evening to you, Iran.
Good evening.
Straight away, as the SJB, what would you have done different today? I mean, was this budget good? Was it bad? Was it mediocre? What would the SJB have done if it was your budget?
This is actually an amendment to an existing budget. So the original budget was presented in December last year by Mr. Basil Rajapaksa. And if you look at the performance of that budget, it has been just useless. Okay. Virtually nothing or very little in that budget has actually been accomplished. So this is an amendment to that budget because I think the new president, new finance minister, plans to probably present his budget in November. That's for the 2023 period.
Yeah.
So this was a little bit more like a policy statement. And the reason I say that is now in a budget you would generally have a focus on revenue and how it's coming and all the sources and the details on that, and then there will be the whole lot of things on expenditures and taxation and all that. So it was not traditional, but he made a lot of statements. He gave a lot of ideas. He talked about a lot of reforms. He appointed a lot of committees, and he put a little bit of money behind the operation of those systems.
But
that's what he actually
are
did.
you struggling to tell me, and which is my question to you, where's the action? Where's the action? All talk is fine, but where's the action?
Yeah, so actually, as I said, because there's a lot of ideas in this, we'll have to ultimately measure the success of this budget in terms of its outturn. What is actually going to be the result of this budget? Now he started with obviously tackling the issue of revenue consolidation. Another revenue consolidation, he put VAT up from 12 to 15. It's where we left off in 2019. We of course brought a new Inland Revenue Act, and we did a lot of things with the new Inland Revenue Act. We increased even the tax compliance. 968,000 taxpayers went to 1.5 million. 1 year revenue went up by 44%. That was the primary surplus in 1 year, right? So
only to be, not to put a finer point to this, only to be given away by the incoming president.
That's right. In 2019, when the new president came, he completely reversed it. So in one sense, the president or the finance minister today brought back some of the things from the past. That's what he did. On the taxation, I would only have one comment. That is, we are in a very high inflation situation now. 55% inflation, 80% food inflation, and you increased your indirect taxes. The pressure is going to be on the vulnerable and the low income groups.
So you're saying that, my question again, will this budget drive prices down?
No, the budget won't drive prices down. It will, in fact, initially, because the VAT has to be paid, initially prices will go up. So it will be, the burden will be on the poor, right? So there was virtually no proposal in terms of direct taxes. There was some statement there, but no proposal.
Why I'm asking about, almost harping on this point about prices coming down, is because the UN says that 50% of children are malnourished. And how does the budget help with that?
So the vulnerable, about 14% have gone below the poverty line. And as you said, UNICEF said that children are vulnerable and there should be emergency help. The World Food Programme said that people are not having a complete meal. And in fact, that's true even of the middle class, because if you really look at what we are eating today as to opposed to what we ate maybe a year ago, often there is no fish in the plate, there is no meat in the plate, and if you are fortunate, you probably have an egg in the plate. So the protein levels, I'm talking about middle class, you see, middle class families. Because about above the poverty line, this next 60% roughly has an average income of about 56,000 rupees a month.
But these kids, the 3 months to 3-year-old, the kids, they don't have triposha. There isn't triposha because it's obviously caused by the lack of forex, no foreign exchange to buy it. It's a pretty serious situation.
Yeah, it is, because it's funny that you say it, because last week I was looking for triposha or summer posha, again to give it to a vulnerable group of about 1,000 people, and I couldn't get a single pack, you see. So there are some short supplies like that. So what he did is he did announce some measures for the vulnerable, right? But those measures, apart from the few who would be who has differently abled, right, and the few who are sick with heart or kidney disease or cancer or something like that, it was basically the Samurdhi recipients. Now
so 5,000 to 7,500 for some people.
So when you are at a low base, you can't go by the percentage, really. The amounts are very, very small.
Indeed,
you see. Now there are two problems with it. One is the amount. The other problem with it is the Samurdhi program is everybody knows it's a politicized program. Half the people who are on it should probably not be getting it, and then there is a whole lot of people who should be getting who are not on it. Because the way in which the Samurdhi lists have been drawn, the targeting has been poor, and therefore the targeting needs to be done more scientifically. In 2019, we actually finally agreed, and the World Bank helped us in it. We agreed on how we are going to target it. So it was on electricity consumption, children between 0 and 5, then dependent adults over 65 years, and all this was taken into account. So my suggestion is that the government should go beyond this budget speech, which didn't really address that, and immediately try to finalize that targeted group, so that sooner rather than later, definitely by 1st January, right, we should be focusing that. Then there was a reference to two other vulnerable groups. One was those people who are working on the estates, right, and then also those in the fishing community. But there was absolutely no allocations in the budget speech.
So this is what I mean about a whole lot of talk, no action, which to me is the same as waffle.
Yes.
Or the great fudge.
Yes. So because we are talking about Samurdhi, but those two communities in particular, I have to mention them because they are very
yes, I mean about the kerosene, we understand that. But where's the allocation?
There was no allocation on that, right?
And the other thing, Iran, is when you raise the Samurdhi by 2,500 and multiply it by the amount of recipients, where are we going to get this money when there appears to be no proposal in this budget or this amendment or whatever to implement tax collection and that sort of thing?
So ultimately there was a statement which also said that the budget deficit, right? Now on one hand, the IMF will want to make sure that you are not given any money by printing or the central bank to bridge the deficit. But the finance minister, I think, I don't know which word to use, cleverly or prudently, right, said that we need to go there. But obviously in the very short term we can't actually go there.
Right.
So I think the commitment will be met. But how the commitment will be met will be really the issue.
So basically, and I say this out of an abundance of frustration, basically all this talk only really results in one thing, and that is to remain in power for as long as you can, and to give the impression that we are trying to do something about it. And so, we just trundle along.
Yeah, so as you said, on the fiscal deficit, there were ratios, goals, and so forth, and with the IMF the discussions are going on. We don't know all the details of those discussions, but some agreement will have to be reached before they actually sign up, even at a staff level.
I love those words. They're critical. Will have to be reached.
Yeah, will have to be. It's not. Though the budget speech said that they are in the final stage.
Is it in the final stage?
We didn't get the impression.
When we as the SJB in their meeting with the IMF.
Yeah, the SJB, the leader of the opposition, Sajid Premadasa, and the team, right? We met with the International Monetary Fund delegation here and didn't get the impression that still there was complete agreement. The discussions are going, the negotiations are going on, and I think there are things that they have to really agree on. So I would say this in terms of the negotiation with the IMF, right? We need to come into an agreement if we look at the country's interest, and we are really wishing the government success there. But you know, because as I said, if it delays, then the country has a loss, because it takes more time for the markets to settle, for rating agencies to see you positively, and then for you to get welcome back into the markets, or for investment to come in.
May I say something, because you've just said it?
Yeah.
You said we are wishing the government well.
Yeah.
With all due respect,
Yeah.
wishing isn't going to be, it's like wishing on a star,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But, with apologies to Barbara Streisand, I think, but
Yeah.
wishing isn't enough. Why aren't you all joining him? This man is again, our president has again issued an invitation, Iran.
Yeah, so I want to just complete that statement on the IMF. So on one hand, if there's a delay, certainly there's a cost to the country. But on the other hand, I don't advocate rushing through things and agreeing to conditions which you are not going to meet.
Right.
You need to negotiate yourself into a strong position.
Something sustainable.
Sustainable, and actually we can deliver, and not have another IMF program which we don't actually deliver on. So I think that is very critical, and there are issues like the IMF wants, for example, they want to have the central bank independent, because they saw in the recent example that
isn't that a good idea?
it's a very good idea. Fiscal policy was driving monetary policy, so I agree with it. However, the balance of that is, while the central bank must be independent, central bank must be accountable, and they need to make sure that that accountability is actually put into the structure when they bring the new central bank law. Then the other thing I would say,
who will, in that case, who will appoint, let's just question out of the blue, who will appoint the governor? Will it be politicized?
no, even the governor can be appointed, because now with them bringing, doing away with the 20th Amendment and bringing the 19th Amendment features back, right? Then even the governor could go through that independent process of appointment, and the monetary board. So
will it be refreshing, as a banker, will it be refreshing to have such a system at the central bank?
It will be, because the name can be proposed, but whether the person is fit and proper will be determined independently. And then the monetary board certainly can be independent of the government, and then there can be mechanisms so that the government can communicate with the larger monetary board. Then the accountability finally should be to Parliament. Even the central bank should be accountable, because financial responsibility lies ultimately with Parliament, and I think that we must make sure that actually that is done. I would go one step further. If you look at an institution like the central bank, the central bank generally has people who join as management trainees, and they come through the ranks and they get to the top, governors, deputy governors, and so forth, usually. I think that the world is changing so fast, you also need people from outside. And I would say at a deputy governor level, senior deputy governor level, and I had this discussion with the IMF, the Ministry of Finance, the central bank. We had these discussions earlier. We should probably bring somebody with experience from the private sector as well into one of those positions, because that interaction will help.
Our governor at the moment, Governor Nandalal, is doing a pretty good job in the circumstances, isn't he?
Yeah, I am all for governors coming out of the central bank, and I'm all for it. It's better to have them rather than to put outsiders who make a mess of it. But I'm talking of even at the deputy governor, senior deputy governor level, bring outside, because the world is changing so much that you can benefit so much by that interaction. Everything creates a tension, but often the tensions are good and positive tensions, because you will ultimately come to a better result. So I would even say that needs to be done.
And on that note, let's go for a quick break and take a peek at this evening's headline news from the wonderful Newsfirst Primetime News team. See you on the other side of the break.
Newsfirst Newsline with Faraz Shaukat Ali. Interim Budget presented today.
අපි පමණ එක තැන සැකරකෙන්නේ අපි තනිකර ලෝකයේ දිව යන්නේ.
Japanese Finance Minister's solution to Sri Lanka's debt problem. Inter-University Students' Federation takes to the streets again. People's Assembly against suppression.
ආනව හිමිකම් කටකිරීම වහාම නැවැත්විය යුතුයි.
රටේ සහජීවනය සමාදානය ඇති වෙන්නේ නැතුව මොන අයවැය ඉදිරිපත් කළත් වැඩක් නැහැ.
මේ නීති එකක් කරන්න හැමෝටම.
Pool party at Iraqi presidential palace. Newsfirst Newsline with Faraz Shaukat Ali.
And welcome back to Newsline Live. We are today in conversation with Mr. Eran Wickramaratne. The topic, of course, is the amendment to the budget, so-called budget. Now then, Eran, you know, this question about the Samurdhi funds, 5,000 to 7,500. But can they survive on 7,500?
Yeah, these funds are basically given as supplementary income. And nowhere can you actually give exactly what's needed. Recently, you know, they said 14% below the poverty line, and they said the next 60%, the average income was about 56,000 rupees a month. So that's middle, right? 56,000 rupees. So if you take that, I mean, as I said, we really can't argue about the numbers, because the numbers are so low compared to what the cost of living today is.
I want to ask you this. You know, private sector debt is 6,500 billion. The interest rate used to be around 10%. It's now 30%, a 20% increase. So that 20% increase alone is about 1,350 more than we are paying. Obviously, the private sector is going to pass this on to the consumers, meaning that the prices will rise. Eran, what on earth are the public going to do? There's a limit. I mean, they have to eat somehow, so they'll have one meal. But what are we going to do?
Yeah, so that's probably already happening, as some of those reports are saying. Right. So economics is all intertwined.
So how do you drive prices down?
Yeah. So
everyone will want to know that.
Yeah. So I think certainly inflation has to be targeted, and that's why central bank neutrality becomes important. Where then they can focus on it, and that will be one goal of the central bank. And they will do that. Initially they have used inflation, right? And I also think when the supply conditions will improve by the next Maha season, when the fertilizer comes in, because we had this wrong decision taken by Gotabaya Rajapaksa as president, which has created a huge mess.
You know, that's ironic. Can I just stop there for 1 second, slightly? That's rather ironic. Here we have a man who made a very obstinate decision and didn't listen to reason, rhyme, or professionals. He just, dictatorially, in his obstinate way, said, from tomorrow morning, no imports. Really. And then he comes on and says, and he agrees that this was a mistake. Now on the other side, and this is what I call the irony of equity, on that one side we've done that. On this side, because the people have a contract with him as a past president, we have to now supply him with a house and security. When he's got a house in Mirihana, why can't he just go and live there and say, listen, people, I'm so sorry, I don't need a house, but I do need security, because otherwise, you know, the remnants of the LTT might come and get me. Why can't they do that? Why should we pay when he's not accountable for this mess that he's put us in?
Well, you're asking me a very complicated question, but I might answer it like this. I'm going to answer it like, we are all responsible for the decisions we take. So is Gotabaya Rajapaksa. And then that responsibility, we should be answerable for that responsibility.
In this life or ecclesiastically?
No, I'm talking of in this life, right? And therefore, a method should be basically followed in it. And I saw, one of our past members of Parliament, Ajit Perera, saying Gotabaya Rajapaksa is welcome in this country, but after he comes here, the cases will be instituted against him, and he can't escape from those. He will have to answer. So I just made the point that the point I'm making is that certainly responsibility is there, accountability has to be there, but that process must be followed. Whoever it is, the proper process must be followed.
Now, various industry sources say that with all this economy and the problems we are facing, that about 500,000 people will be actually out of a job. So why can't we go the American route, where it's the monetary policy is growth driven, and then sort out inflation once you've sorted out the jobs?
Yeah. So I want to just finish that comment on Gotabaya Rajapaksa.
Oh, right.
I think on the balance also the government has a responsibility, right? While justice must prevail, there's no question about it.
Yeah.
And if somebody has done wrong, like we knew what happened to the Indonesian former head of state, right, who has been sentenced to 12 years, justice must be done if somebody has done wrong. On the other hand, governments have a responsibility to provide protection as per pre-agreed basis. Right, going to what you just said, right, what is the case that you are really arguing there? You just said
about Gota.
No, not about Gota. You said subsequent to Gota, you were trying to make out a case, and I was wondering what direction you were really pushing.
No, I mean, I'm expressing the frustrations of the irony of equity, because on the one side we gave him some power, and he misused it, and it caused all this problem. But on the other side, it's almost having the cheek to say, but you know what, I need a house. Right. That's because we, the public, have a contract with him thanks to these benefits that you give previous presidents.
So that issue is there. Responsibility is there, justice is there, and I think we need to definitely move beyond that.
When we move beyond that, I'm talking about these jobs. So people say 500,000 jobs are at stake.
So I think the issue here is the budget deficit is there, the dollar crisis is there, then inflation has to be controlled, interest rates have gone up, and so it's very, very complicated. Then the GDP growth rate has been really low. The GDP growth rate has to eventually come up. So in that process, the job losses, will be there. Now I think that I think there are minuses and pluses. Right, the minus side is, I think the job losses are already there.
Right.
So the job losses are already there. I would say the plus side is this. The plus side is, right, Sri Lanka's exports, right, still have the potential to grow. Information technology, for example, has a potential to grow. The issue there has been is actually having the holding back the resources, for that industry. Then if you take the garments industry, I think the potential to grow is there, right, in the garments industry.
I'll tell you what, we must almost on a daily basis say a vocal one or a silent one, but a prayer of thanks to one Ranasinghe Premadasa. Despite all the flack that he came about, that our people are, sewing undergarments for the West and so on.
Yeah.
Today, one of those companies is the world leader in that.
Yeah. So certainly the garments industry, and as I said, the information technology can take over in terms of value addition. And the other thing is, I don't really believe, what I saw in this amended appropriation bill in terms of tourism, 2.5 million, within the next 2 years. Of tourists coming into the country, but I believe
we'll all have to go and start praying
that we are on a low base, and basically the travel advisories are being removed and people are going to come, and so I think I'm hopeful that here, right, tourism will rise and some of the dollars will come. In the interim, the job losses will be there, right? But because the trend will be growth, trend will move in that direction, I'm more positive that will happen. It will not happen overnight. It will take time, and there will be a lot of pain initially. But something like tourism, I think, is a low-hanging fruit, and it can come. Now the problem is this: that people are not able to service their debt, you see, and the banks are holding this debt. I think that we all have to get together, bankers and customers. We have to be innovative. We have to safeguard the banking system, and we have to understand where the problem is. We'll have to look at innovative ways.
In which case, we've got 2 minutes or 3 minutes. In which case? I'll say it the way I see it, okay, Aaron? That's what I do. And I get paid anyway. But Aaron, can you, when I say you, can the SJB stop whinging from the sidelines? Join this man, cast aside your differences, and get in and play the game. Why can't you all do that?
I don't think that you have to be batting in the middle all the time to play the game. You can play the game, and that is why I said that there are a lot of innovative ways in which the banks and the customers' issues can be resolved. And certainly we will make our contribution. We will make our contribution by actually one is providing the necessary ideas, suggestions, participating in the process, discussions, everything. We will certainly do that. Then in Parliament, through the parliamentary committee system,
it's not enough punch, is there?
No, it's that the parliamentary committee system is more legislative function. It's not an executive function, but it's an important legislative function, you see, because
but it's after the fact, isn't it?
No, not even. We don't have to only look at it in terms of audit after the fact. We can look at it in an operational sense, you see, as well, and make a lot of suggestions of how it can be actually done. The reason why we don't go in and just jump and take a position, right, and there are good reasons for that, is one is we are not convinced that the government has sufficiently tackled corruption. We are not convinced that those who are actually working in executive positions are really clean. We are not convinced about that. And we need to be careful about that, because we have a problem. We have a parliament which doesn't represent the wills of the people, and then we become a part of that executive process as well, right? And therefore we need to be careful. Then there were other issues we brought up, like using the Prevention of Terrorism Act, which is totally uncalled for, unnecessary, innocent people being held up, right? So if we are also part of that, where is the check and balance going to come in actually taking
if they
this
can
forward?
find somebody who's stolen the bed sheet or something, so I'm laughing about this, but it is serious.
Yeah.
Then what about the people in the former conflict areas in the north? Ms. Satgunanadin was telling us that they've been protesting for 2,000 days. How about using some of this talented police work to find those people, to find facts about them, at least so they can have closure? I mean, when is this country going to get on and
Yeah, so you brought it to a very important point. People need to have confidence in the system and in the justice system. And I think this is one of the huge problems that we are actually having, and that needs to be created. So that is why I don't think, Shaukat, you should take it lightly when we are saying that we are in opposition and we have to play a significant
So basically,
role.
you really sticking to this thing and saying, look, we don't want to be part of a corrupt system. That's basically, that's what it is.
Yeah, one is that, and the second thing is they don't have a mandate, and we don't have a mandate to do that.
So we want a mandate.
Yeah, we want a mandate. Right? So we are legal, but we are not legitimate. We are saying go for an election, right, sooner rather than later, and then create legitimacy, and then it will be much easier for those who govern to govern.
Eran Wickramaratne, thank you very much. As always, we've enjoyed having you. It's now time for the primetime news, and as always, God bless you all.